It's interesting. So the model we have now, since we're a little over 30 people at this point, and we're growing very quickly. So currently we have sort of one pod model, and then the growth of our company will be to have multiple pods. And a pod is essentially a group of product design and engineering stakeholders. Generally speaking, there's sort of one design lead, one product manager, and one SDM, and then other folks who are working with them. So obviously many more engineers. So the way we kind of model that process is that sort of design point of contact, that engineering point of contact, and that product point of contact or product manager um, collaborate on the sort of roadmap and cadence. And we do that, we do kind of like fractally. So we have annual goals, and then we break those down into quarterly goals. And then we'll break those down into actual sort of sprint level decisions. Um, and so generally speaking, I'm working pretty closely with my product manager, someone Anna, who's awesome. And she and I are working on sort of like figuring out a bit ahead of engineering, so that we're figuring out the right pieces we need to sort of slot in. So for example, let me think of a good one. So recently, like we were working on an initiative, and there is, sorry, I can't speak too much to the details of it, but there's a product initiative coming up later in the year that we wanted to do some low tech experiments with. So in this case, we were able to identify this sort of lower tech path and do some iteration on that before we get to the actual development sprint, so that we can gather more inputs live from it. And then when it gets to the actual sort of like, when we're sort of more in the engineering implementation, we tend to, sort of sync on blockers and open questions. And the way we do that is we have a daily stand-up, and everyone within the pod is part of that stand-up, down to, entry-level engineers or entry-level designers if we have them. And that's our time to sort of like, raise up issues like, oh, hey, like I realized I was digging into this problem and realized there's like a much bigger thing we need to go solve. So let's have an offline discussion about that. So usually what will happen is we'll have that stand up, we'll keep that to 15 minutes or less, and then we'll sort of reserve the time after that for what we call post stand up items, where then we can have a quick impromptu conversation with just the stakeholders that need to be there for that. So sometimes that'll be, for example, like just me and one engineer, sort of like talking through some edge case or something like that. And as I mentioned, as we scale the team, the idea is rather than having a bigger and bigger pod, that we have more pods and that we have them focus on sort of different parts of the product and business.